You're listening to the MindPod Network. Please consider supporting the It's All Happening podcast by going to zachleary.com and using the Amazon portal to buy your stuff. It's all happening. 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 It's all Hello, friends. Welcome to the podcast. This is the It's All Happening with Zach Leary podcast. I'm Zach Leary. I'm your host. Thank you all so much for being here. Episode 124 of the show. Very, very cool. And this week we are so pleased to have the one, the only Bhagavan Das on the program. To call Bhagavan Das unique, one of a kind, like no other, is an understatement. There is truly nobody like this guy. And we will get into the story of Bhagavan Das in case you aren't familiar with him in just a second. I think probably many of you are familiar with him and his contribution to Eastern spirituality and bringing it to the West, but we'll get into that too in just a second. So last week on the program, we had Jesse Paris-Smith and Rebecca Foon from Pathway to Paris, a very cool organization that is doing great work about bringing awareness to climate change. And if you go to pathwaytoparis.com, you can learn about all the great work that they are doing. But I wanted to give a shout out to Bioneers and Joshua Fouts, who is the executive director of Bioneers. He's the one who made me aware of Jesse Paris-Smith and Pathway to Paris and made the introduction for them coming on the podcast. Very, very cool of him. But if you're not familiar with Bioneers, who is bringing awareness to not just climate change, but so many, crucial issues of our time, definitely go to Bioneers.org. And we are very, very pleased to announce that Joshua was so kind to offer 2 passes as a giveaway for It's All Happening listeners. So send an email to info@itsallhappeningshow.com and you will be entered for a chance to win 2 passes to the Bioneers conference, which is coming up October 19th through to the 21st in San Rafael, California at the Marin Center. And this year's theme is called Pathways Forward. And I really wanted to read the subtext, the copy, the splash copy for it. We're living in a thriller that only reality could write. Breakdown and breakthrough, death and rebirth, creative destruction writ large. As this year's Bioneers conference will exemplify, there's as much cause for hope as for horror. And the ground truth is that how this story turns out is up to us. Nothing less than a step change in human evolution will do. Never has it been more important for us to exercise our vision, our agency, our solidarity, and our voices. So this is what we'll be doing together at Bioneers 2018. So yes, enter for a chance to win 2 passes to that amazing conference that happens every year in Northern California. info@itsallhappeningshow.com.
We're always planning. We're trying to get it together. And meanwhile, Kali is standing behind us with a sword above her head, laughing. Ha, tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes, baby. The moment is all we have.
Oh, so that's a little bit from Bhagavan Das giving a talk on the nature of illusion a few years back. And I'm going to play a snippet of Bhagavan Das's kirtan as well. And if you aren't familiar with his kirtan, know that it is one of the great forces in transformational music. His repetition and delivery of mantra and turning it into music is an experience that must be seen to be believed. So Bhagavan Das, if you are familiar with him, you will know his connection to the formation of Be Here Now and to really the concept of Be Here Now. It is Bhagavan Das that led Ram Dass to Neem Karoli Baba in 1967. And when Ram Dass was still Richard Albert and was really caught in the anxiety and the grip of his emotions as they were traversing through India, Bhagavan Das would say to Richard Albert, "Emotions come and go like waves. Just be here now." And that phrase, that concept was so potent and so palpable and so transformational for Richard Albert that upon his morphing into Ram Dass via the love, the power, the light, the force of Neem Karoli Baba, the concept of Be Here Now really stayed with him, and the book that changed it all was named after those experiences. So Bhagavan Das, he went to India in 1965, way before it was a cool or trendy kind of thing to do, and India was still had more than one foot in British Raj, India, and had about a third of the population it had today, and was not, the developing, industrial, modernized India that we see today. Moving right along, before we get into the podcast with Bhagavan Das, I wanted to give a big shout out and virtual hug to Narayan, otherwise known as the Narayan Mandir, who's one of my dear friends and one of the great examples, living examples of Bhakti Yoga in Los Angeles. He made this podcast with Bhagavan Das possible, so thank you, Narayan, for doing that for me and for the listeners. So whether you are familiar with Bhagavan Das or not, know that he is one of the most intense, potent, sometimes controversial, powerful, and unique voices within Eastern spirituality as it has been practiced in the West. There's no question about that. And no matter what your trip is, if you're into rock and roll, if you're into EDM, if you're into yoga, if you're into kirtan, if you're into Grateful Dead music, if you're into crochet, attending one of Bhagavan Das's kirtans is an event, is a tribal gathering, is a group experience that will take you into a collective space, into a space where the collective consciousness takes over your individual consciousness and you merge, you fuse together with the group and with the divine, with something that is bigger than you. And you are taken to a place that is beyond words, that is beyond language. And if you look at people's lives having an influence on other people's lives, and having an influence, a direct influence on culture in general, Bhagavan Das's life can certainly be looked at through that lens. Had Richard Albert not stumbled upon this 23-year-old long-haired sadhu in India in 1967 and had not been taken with the sweetness of Be Here Now and the love of Neem Karoli Baba, chances are yoga in the West would not be what it was or what it is today, or spirituality in the West would not be thought of as the way it does today. His influence on culture in general, outside of spirituality is of historical importance. I really believe that. So without further ado, well, here's a little music by Bhagavan and then the podcast. Enjoy.
Om Hang Hanamate Rudatmakaye Hom Pat Swaha. Om Hang Hanamate Rudatmakaye Hom Pat Swaha. Om Hang Hanamate Rudatmakaye Hom Pat Swaha. Mangalmudati Marutinandana Sakala Mangalani Kandana. Let's do it, baby.
Let's formally start this. Bhagavan.
Okay. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
For doing this.
Yep.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
Cool.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you.
I did want to just sort of, we started talking about it before the tape rolled and kind of go back in time just a little bit because one of obviously the fascinating parts of your story is that you went to India way before it was cool. Now these days, people go, they do these yoga trips to India and there's these groups all the time.
Yeah.
And you went there in 65.
I did. I left America in 1963. I left a month after JFK had his head blown off.
Why?
Why? Because first of all, I knew that we did it, number one. I knew the government did it. I knew it was an inside job immediately. I saw the cover up on TV. I was 18. I got a letter from my government telling me to go to Vietnam immediately and get a gun and kill people. And I was like,
fuck that.
I am so out of this movie. I'm out of here. And I, left the theater, got out of the seat, walked out. I had a beautiful guitar. I was in the folk music scene. Okay, so I was really into Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and, all the folk singers of the time and all the, the black blues guys and everything. I was really into it. I played guitar like 10, 12 hours a day. I taught myself guitar. My father's a professional musician. He played music like every night of his life. And he had a bunch of huge bands in the 30s, like big, huge 30-piece bands.
Oh, wow, cool.
I was a band leader, yeah. I was on radio. And
oh, fantastic.
Yeah, he was Bing Crosby's personal piano player and played with him and traveled with him.
Big band music. Very cool.
Yeah, he's a big band.
So you played guitar?
I played guitar, so I was a folk music. I was the purest folk music. We just want to hear the guitar and voice, we don't want any,
None of that extra stuff.
Extra stuff.
Right. Raw,
and naked, kind of popular right now, right?
Yeah.
And then I became a beatnik and started reading a lot of Chinese philosophy, Tao Te Ching. I started getting into being existentialism. I read I probably read 3,000 books by the time I was 18. Okay, I was hyper intellectual. I mean, I was a reader, man. Intense.
And this is this is before the counterculture was the counterculture.
Yeah, this was in 1961, 62.
Right.
And I was going to San Francisco and I was reading Allen Ginsberg and I saw Allen Ginsberg in San Francisco, but I was so intimidated by him that I was afraid to, approach him. But he was standing in City Light bookstore and he had long black hair all the way down past his butt.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen a man like that. This is like in 1962,
Right.
And
nobody was doing that then.
No.
Yeah.
So, but I got a vibe from him. So I was the first loop in India after Alan and Gary Snyder and a couple other beatniks. What's his name? Corso.
Okay.
Yeah, Corso and him. And they went to India, I think, around 62, 61. So then I left America in 63. I sold my guitar for $2,000. I hitchhiked to New York. I got a ticket on a German freighter called the Klaus Ollendorf, which took me to Amsterdam. And it was a long, long trip on the ocean, $140. I jumped off the boat in Amsterdam in the middle of the night in the snow with $60 in my pocket, and that was basically all the money I had for the next 8 years. $60.
Wow.
And I did it.
You went overland.
I went overland to India. Actually went overland from Greece.
Okay.
I was in Greece and when I went overland to India. And I'd been in Europe for about a year and then ended up in Greece. Mm-hmm. I went to Morocco and then I hitchhiked from Morocco to Egypt, which it took about 4 months.
Wow.
Ended up in Israel and then went to Greece. Met a bunch of expatriate poets in Greece. Met Leonard Cohen there. Stayed up all night with Leonard. And we did the I Ching and, hung out, really deep connection. And then went to India, overland. It was like about a 4 or 5 month trip.
Amazing, you can do that today.
No, you couldn't do it today. And then I got into, I was in Afghanistan and, and it was just like the Wild West in Afghanistan, man. It was just like, you'd have a tea shop and there'd be like a couple of horses in front of the tea shop. And guys were like, with bullets, like big belts of bullets and like, it was like full on American Indian, a cowboy.
I love it.
And I was so cool, man. And I was just, what I mean? Coming from this plastic, fantastic Disneyland America.
Newport Beach,
right here, man. This is where I'm from.
Yeah.
I grew up here. I'm very familiar with the energy here. Huntington Beach.
Wow, so, then it was so different. The whole...
There was nothing.
The seduction of the West hadn't really hit them yet.
Where?
In India.
Oh, nothing. Oh, no. India was British Raj. I entered India in 1965 in Amritsar at the Golden Temple. India had only 500 million. And India... The energy of India was still the energy of when Mahatma Gandhi was alive. So it was like 1930, 1940. The British Raj energy was still intact.
Right.
And the big steam trains were still running, and it was still Alice in Wonderland place. It was just wonderful.
It wasn't a polluted wasteland yet.
It was not polluted wasteland yet.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was like intact, and there was still a lot of great saints still alive in India when I was there. And obviously I tuned into that.
So let's go. Let's start there. Who is you get there, you get word of these saints.
Yeah.
Did you get word of them? Did you just tune into that vibe? Did someone tell you about them?
I went into the Golden I went to the Golden Temple every day for a couple of weeks in Amritsar. It's the Sikh temple.
The Sikh temple.
And all they do is sing and chant, and it's like they're super holy of holy temples, all marble, and the floor is just covered in tears and flowers and water, and like literally like hundreds of thousands of people like crying and just like all this devotion, which as an American, I was just thinking what it was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You're like, what is this?
What is this? What are they doing? Why are they crying? What is this feeling?
Yeah.
Huh?
It's a form of devotion so different.
It's so different. Yeah. I didn't know, and the Sikh guys, have these long white beards down to their stomachs and all look like people out of the Bible. Yeah. It was like some Bible movie. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
And turbans,
like the people, as a kid, you see all the Jesus movies, the
right.
Bible movies.
Sure.
It was right out of the Bible.
10 Commandments or something.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And 10 Commandments. So I got the vibe. I got the God vibe real strong. And I wanted to go deeper into it. Met a guy who said, come to my temple of silence. And I thought, that sounds great. India's really noisy. It's like New York City. It's worse than New York City, India, because everyone hits the horn on their cars all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like millions and millions of horns going off.
Yeah.
So it's just like beyond obnoxious.
It's kind of like a beautiful chaos in a way.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful chaos.
Yeah.
I
still find it to be, even though it's kind of a polluted wasteland. The beauty within that kind of that chaos and the madness. There's kind of this love still there.
There is. Yeah. I'm sure. I haven't been back since '71. I'm blacklisted in India. They won't let me back. No, India does not want me in India. I haven't. The Indian CIA has a huge fat file on me.
Wow, that's kind of an accomplishment.
They followed me for 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you haven't been since '71?
No, I have not been back since '71.
Okay. So you're there.
I'm Temple of Silence, and then I was all alone for the first time in my life. Basically, I was locked up in solitary confinement for 3 weeks, total empty room, 2 meals a day, nothing in the room, nothing. Wow. And I just sat there and freaked out for days, and you know what I mean?
Do you feel like you found yourself? Or
I found myself because I started to meditate on my own, and I started to chant Om, and I started to connect with my breath and then the light, and then I realized what I wanted to do when I grow up. You know, that's the big thing.
Yes.
What do you want to do when you grow up? And I realized that I was in the land of saints, and that God was the ultimate everything. Nothing was beyond God, and the saints know God, and that I'm here because I'm in saint school, and I'm going to be a saint. And that was my vocation.
That was your calling.
That was my calling, and that's what I did. I left the Temple of Silence and went to a Buddhist temple and lived with a Buddhist master named Dharmawara, who lived to be 136 years old.
Wow, fantastic.
In full faculties, complete articulate with his mind and speech.
Fantastic.
136.
That's amazing.
And I met him, he was 70. I thought he was about 40. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was just amazing. So I got to live with him for a while and do that, and then went to Rishikesh. Missed the Beatles by 2 weeks. The Beatles had just left Rishikesh, and I got there and got initiated by their guru.
But you saw Maharishi.
Maharishi Mahesh Yogi initiated me. And I got my heart mantra from him. I went into these caves behind Rishikesh to meditate and really do the mantra and do the practice, and did that for like, how long was I there? I think 3 months. I meditated like 15, 20 hours a day. I was like, I was 20 years old, 19, 20, in that range. And then ended up meeting a Swami in Dehradun, stayed with him for like a year, doing intense austerities, 3 hours of sleep a night, no food, 1 glass of milk a day.
Wow. So this idea, when you're first being introduced to austerities like that, you're from Newport Beach. This isn't the sticks, you know. Newport Beach is not the sticks. So when you're kind of being introduced to austerities, like, tell me what your first reaction to that, because that's an intense juxtaposition to go through.
Right.
You're losing all of your shit.
I was always extremely uncomfortable in America. I didn't like suburbia. I didn't like them cutting down all of my trees. I wanted to stay at the beach. I didn't want to go home with my uptight mother in the car and look out the dirty, greasy windows of the car. Right?
So you already knew the illusion.
Yeah, I was like, I'm out of this trip, man. Yeah. I can't handle it. You know, and then I felt so embarrassed that I was an American and I had this big, you know, kind of flabby, like white body. You know, I felt really embarrassed about it. You know, so I was really, I did it.
You were in it.
Did it. I mean, I was like, you know, went from 220 pounds to 160 pounds.
Wow.
And like tight too, you know, like 3 hours, 4 hours of yoga a day. Now, I was into purifying myself and becoming a saint, right? I was being trained.
So you could see the illusion.
I could see the illusion so clearly.
Okay.
I just saw it completely. That school was just a big prison system, and it was just a big drone factory. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
You know.
So you're in this guy, you go Maharishi and then to Dehradun, and then what happens at Dehradun? Where we're going to get to is to how you get to Maharaja, to meet Crowley.
Sure.
Which I know changed everything.
I was loving Swamiji, and he trained me, and he taught me. I got to hang out with him. It was a very powerful relationship, and he was a very, very saintly man. He was very powerful. He was probably about 45 years old, spoke impeccable English, perfect, Sanskrit scholar, beautiful man, wearing all orange, you know, sannyasin and so forth, and loved me. He just totally loved me, and I really was in I got a very intense purification going, because all of that, everything started leaving, you know, all my American, you know, some scars, all the bullshit, you know, all the, you know, stupid TV shows, and you know,
and the need to accumulate, to want, to desire,
to want,
Yeah.
you know, and just seeing the sadness of my parents and watching them fight it out in the trenches of America and try to survive. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
You know,
You felt like they were sad,
I felt they were sad. Yeah.
and they didn't know it.
Well, my dad went from being, you know, really huge band leader, successful in the 30s, to playing in playing piano in bars for tips.
Sure. It's tough.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's beyond good. Like, he's great. And there he is in a bar with a bunch of drunks playing for tips. And how do you think it made me feel?
Yeah, right.
I just loved my dad. I saw him as he was like the king, man.
Right.
He was so beautiful.
There he was, just...
Yeah, my dad was a very saintly man. He was a very pure man. Never had a drink in his life. He's just like married to my mother for 50 years.
Wow.
You know, yeah, old school all the way.
And music was deep in his heart.
Deep in his heart.
Yeah. So you took that with you.
I took it with me,
Yeah.
and that's how it all. That's really my spiritual life in that sense. I truly,
So,
you know.
when you started and you're going there and you're kind of going through the austerity measures and all these practices, when I mean, music was already in you. How did mantra start?
Well, because I was a folk singer.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
mean. So.
I mean, I sang at the Troubadour here. I drove in from my house in Costa Mesa and sang at the folk, you know, the hootenannies at the Troubadour here in Los Angeles, like in 1961.
Wow.
62. I was like 16 years old, and I was on stage with my guitar singing.
Fantastic. Wow. So when mantra started making its way into your soul in India, it did...
Like when?
Yeah, I mean, did
kind
it-
of when?
Yeah, did it
No,
start?
nothing really happened when I was doing the austerities with Swamiji.
Yeah.
I didn't really chant or do anything, you know, because TM is like a mantra.
Right.
They give you a seed mantra, and then you visualize it and, you know, kind of go into it. So I was kind of, you know, moving in that direction. I had Om, but I didn't really do mantra or get into my voice.
It wasn't quite there yet.
No, it wasn't there yet. And I was still 20.
Did the Maharishi give you your seed mantra? Did he give it
Yes.
to you himself?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No, not him himself,
Oh,
his,
okay.
his Swami right next to him. And then I spoke to him. I sat down and we had, you know, a connection.
Yeah.
And he told me, all women are your mother.
Wow.
And I was like, that really freaked me out. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm an American, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our mothers are different than Indian mothers.
Yes.
With nose rings who have 10 and 12 children and spend all day cooking in the kitchen and serving the children. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We're from a different kind of...
It's a totally different map.
There's a whole different map.
Yeah.
And so all women are my mother. I mean, I can kind of get it philosophically, but it's like, how do I really deal with that?
Culturally, I don't...
Culturally, how can I deal with that?
Yeah, right.
You know?
I can barely even understand the concept, you know. It's
The concept.
Yeah, because it's, you know...
Well, we don't come from that, but I have
from it.
experienced...
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I had an amazing healing because right after I came out of the Temple of Silence in Firozpur, I got really sick. I had a huge fever. I was really sick. And I was staying with an Indian family, and the woman had 10 children.
Wow.
And she put me in her bed and put my head in her lap, and she just like rubbed my head and basically just loved me up and healed me for like 2 or 3 days. And I looked up into her eyes and I realized that this woman my head was in her lap and her hands were like healing me. She loved me. There was no doubt in her mind that I was not her son.
Yeah.
Not her son, her absolute son.
Right.
I mean, and I'm looking up at her going, I never felt love like this from my mother in my life.
Right.
This is like blowing my mind.
Complete.
This woman completely loves me and she's healing me. I am her child.
Yes. And that she's the goddess.
I was
right?
God to her.
Yeah.
I was a God. I was a living God to her.
And she was the goddess.
And she was the goddess.
Yeah.
She was, so it was a total...
They're healing you.
I got the Shiva Shakti energy right off. It was like pure Tantra, just spontaneously given to me. And I've probably been spending my whole life working with that energy that happened when I got sick.
Right.
You know, when I was...
It was like you were just detoxing all of your...
I was
impurities,
detoxing
huh?
all of my impurities from America and all the hot dogs I ate. And, you know what I mean? Every Disneyland experience, and you know what I'm saying? Right.
Yeah, it's funny though, because I hear that and I think of that. And I mean, I'm still those experiences, that part of the Maya, I still see something attractive to it, you know? You know, it's a seductive thing, no question. So how'd you make it to Neem Karoli Baba?
Well, I made it to Neem Karoli Baba because I was taken to Neem Karoli Baba. I never would have made it to him. I was taken there by my Swami. I went on retreat with my Swami. We drove to a village outside of Nainital, and outside of the village there was a little temple, and my Swami had his driver stop the car. He said to me, there's a very famous saint here. Let's see if he's in. We can have his, darshan. Darshan means to see in India. It means when you see a saint or when you're in the presence of someone, it means you see something that's not mental. You see something deep in your heart.
It's beyond words. It's beyond language.
It's beyond language.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect sunset or
right.
The moon and the star at that moment. You know what I mean?
I sure know.
That's called darshan.
Yes.
That's called darshan. Or see the eyes of a child, or, you know what I'm saying?
One of my favorite Terence McKenna quotes is, there is a space beyond language. It's just so damn hard to talk about.
Yeah, I love it. It's so hard to talk about, but you can't.
But you can't. But
that's why the saints that's why silence is. A lot of saints never talk.
Right. So they don't need to.
Why get in trouble? Think about it.
Yeah, right.
Why get in trouble? You don't talk? No problem.
No problem, right? So you stop and he's there? Neem Karoli's
so we
there?
came, yeah, Neem Karoli Baba was there. Swamiji went in the room, and it was a dark room, the size of this room here. So I guess it's what, 10 by 12?
Yeah, about that.
10 by 12 with one window at the end, which was boarded up. There was a little sliver of light coming through the window, and the only other light was from the open door. And there was a low wooden table that Neem Karoli Baba was sitting on.
This is what we call a tucket.
Tucket. Yes, he was sitting on a tucket, and I was explaining because I don't, Western people don't know what tuckets are.
Yeah.
It's a low wooden bed in India that used for table, bed. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Whatever. Just
right.
Lower than that. And my Swami was sitting next to Neem Karoli Baba on the tucket, and he was holding his hand. And I stood in the doorway and I looked in. And I saw a circle. I saw a circle of light around Neem Karoli Baba like he was a Christmas tree lit up. And the room was dark, and I could actually see light all around his body. And I blew my mind. I was like in shock when I saw it. I've never seen a human being with light all around their body, like a glow all around their body. And I was just like, almost, kind of wanting to faint or something. I couldn't move. I just stood there in gapping in awe.
Yeah.
And then I heard Swamiji's voice. He said, Shanti Prakash, light of peace, the name he gave me. Shanti Prakash. Shanti Prakash, come, bow down. Come, bow. Come, pranam. So I walked in slowly and got close to them, got close to Neem Karoli Baba, and I went down on my knees and put my head down. And just as I was bringing my head up, he reached his hand out from under his blanket, pulled me into him, put my head on his knee, put his blanket over my head, and then hit me twice really hard on the head. And I came up from that experience, and I sat there in front of him, and it was like someone turned the faucet on, and these two streams of tears that I have never cried like that in my life, tears just started pouring out of my eyes like two little rivers. It was like all the tears that you wanted to cry or needed to cry that you didn't cry. You write about whatever, who cares what it was for,
right?
Were flowing. And it was like he knocked my brains out of my head completely into my heart. And then he jumped into my heart and closed the door.
Wow.
And I was so stunned and so shocked, right? And I had nothing, and I was sitting there for I probably sat in front of him for 10 minutes. And then he said, Prasad, go eat. I really felt like eating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go eat. And I hadn't eaten anything in like 6 months. Okay?
So he feeds you.
The next thing, he was feeding me. He said, you're really hungry.
Many ways.
Yeah, you're really hungry, boy. You're a hungry boy.
Yeah.
But this guy's been starving you to death. And so I'm sitting in front of the Shiva temple, and I'm staring at 10 giant, greasy Indian puris, which I can't even look at. They make me want to swoon.
Yeah.
And a big globs of greasy potatoes with spices in them.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks I like Indian food. I do not like Indian food. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
But that's what there was.
Mm-hmm. And so I just looked at the food for a really long time, and I couldn't touch it. And I kept hearing these slurping sounds next to me, and Swamiji was just going at it like a hungry dog, man. He had that plate all gone. He said, eat, it's the best, right? So I started eating, and it was the most delicious food I ever ate. I ate all of these greasy flatbread, puri things in India, and all the horrible food that I thought made me sick, which it did.
Yeah.
And my stomach was perfect. And I fell totally in love with Maharaji. I went off with Swamiji. All I could think about was Neem Karoli Baba. I could not get him out of my consciousness. He was with me all the time, and I felt really bad because I felt like that I was like Swamiji's wife. And then I went to a party and I met this other man.
Someone else.
I met the one, right? I met the man.
Right.
I'm the wife, right? But I met this other man who just made my husband look, okay, right?
Yeah.
But not like this guy, right?
But he brought you to him.
But he brought me to him. There you go.
Right.
Oh man, that's so true. And I totally always, I acknowledge Swamiji so deeply for that. And I went back to his ashram, and the great Kumbh Mela was coming at the Magh Mela, which is every 12 years they have this major Kumbh Mela.
Yeah.
And this was a big one. This was the 1966 Kumbh Mela, 12 years. And Swamiji planned to take me there and make me sannyasin. So I was going to have my hair cut. I was going to wear orange robes. I would be Swami Shanti Prakashananda. And he was going to do the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
But here I was, you know what I'm saying? I got under the blanket, and I only wanted to stay under the blanket. Under Maharaji's, there was just no question.
There's nothing else.
There was nothing else.
Yes.
Or, you could flip the side, just like, boyfriend, girlfriend, doesn't make any difference. It's just the energy was so different. So I planned, I'm going to leave. I got to get out of here. I got to run away.
You got to get back to this.
I got to get back to this, and I cannot confront Swamiji.
Oh, interesting.
You follow me? Yeah. I got to run away. You follow me? Like I'm afraid. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I'm afraid to leave Swamiji. He's given me so much love and attention. And
you're a young man?
I'm a young man. Yeah. Right?
I get it.
What do you mean I'm a young man?
Well, because you're a young man and you're I sure remember when I was younger and my elders, I really
I respected him so much.
Them.
He was I always
you don't want to upset them.
I didn't want to hurt his feelings on any level.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I knew how much he loved me and all the energy he put into me.
Yeah.
Right?
I understand.
Yeah.
That's heavy, and he really did. He changed your life.
He transformed my life completely, and my whole life would never have been there without him. So I said, okay, so Swamiji wakes up at 3:00. Listen. I was planning it out. We all wake up. I wake up at 3. He wakes up at 3. He sits on the roof, and he has a huge bag, and he has this mala made out of tulsi beads, and it's 1,080 beads. The mala.
A big one.
Big one.
Wow.
So that he can get, one round, and he's already done 1,000 mantras.
Yeah.
And then he flips, you know what I'm saying? So he's counting, obviously. They always count, by the way.
Yeah.
This is really important. All tantric people count the mantras. And it's not a question of accumulating, but it's you have to go through Like if you've done 600,000 mantras of a mantra, that mantra then awakens in your consciousness. It's like a groove you put in your mind. Do you follow me?
Yeah, I do.
You're imprinting. It's an imprint in your mind.
So is this the counting and the specific number? Because, you know, in like the ISKCON tradition, the 16 rounds a day. And
Sure.
Is that, I know the 108 thing.
Yeah.
I understand the significance of that. But the repetition of the 108, like the 16 rounds a day in the ISKCON tradition is, I mean, I love this tradition a lot, so I don't want to. But is that necessary?
I think, I think that we'd all like to sidestep it, and we'd like to go like non-dual, and we'd like to get to the, the essence of it and find the tantric shortcut and blah, blah, blah. Right? Everyone wants to have their cake and eat it too.
Sure.
But I'm kind of thinking that I'm back at square one, personally. I'm back at, I do nothing but devotion and faith. It's all faith and devotion. There's nothing else, because you can't know the deathless state until you attain the deathless state. You do not really know that the whole world is nothing, it's just empty, but like pulsating energy particles of light. You do not know that until you take LSD. And a good dose. Okay?
Yeah.
And you're in an environment that is completely one with nature, and you're just in that space. Okay?
Yes.
LSD is the god of America. It is. And that's why they're so freaked out about it. You know what I'm saying? That's why people got freaked out, about, Richard Albert and Tim Leary and what they were doing, and their opening, and, all the people involved, and you know what I'm saying?
Because it broke
through everything.
It broke through all the bullshit.
It broke through all the bullshit.
Yeah, it did.
It cut through all the bullshit. I mean, you could become one with God. You don't know God. You are the God being.
There is no
one but everything.
Right. But
go back.
In order to, so the veil is pierced. Yes, and you see that. But in order to sustain that on a daily basis,
you need a daily spiritual practice.
You need the sadhana.
Okay, so listen. Here's what happened. Back to the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like, well, Swamiji's busy an hour doing the japa on the roof.
Yeah.
I got my blanket packed. I'm going to slip out in dark.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go out the gate by the little Shiva temple, and that's it. So I'm tiptoeing out like a cat, like about 3:15 or 3:30. I get to the side of the ashram, and I'm thinking how I'm going to deal with the gate, because it has one of those squeaky hinges, okay? And I can't really open it, so I have to figure out if I can put my leg over it or what. And just as I'm standing there, I turn my head, I feel this energy, I turn my head, and there I'm staring at Swamiji's feet. And he's standing there, right? And I went over, and I put my head on his feet and started crying. And then I lifted my head up, and I looked at him, and he blessed me, and he said, I know, and blessed me. Oh, wow. And I left and got on the train. And I got to Neem Karoli Baba and basically stayed as close to him for like 6 years. I stayed with him like 24 hours a day for like, 6 months. I drove everywhere with him. I was, in his presence continually.
And he called you Bhagavan Das.
He called me Ram Das, was the first name he gave me.
Oh, I didn't know.
He said, I'm going to give you a name, you're Ram Das. And I instantly said, I don't like that name. And he laughed and laughed and laughed. He thought that was so funny that I would reject his name, right? And he laughed and laughed, and then he put his head up and he goes, Bhagavan Das. And I thought, yeah, now you're talking. I like that.
Like that. So, a lot of us, and I ask everybody this who I know who was with Neem Karoli Baba in person.
Yeah.
A lot of us, people like myself, have met Neem Karoli Baba out of the body.
Sure.
Sure. But if it is possible to put it into words, what was his physical presence like? What was it like being with him in person? I'm sitting here next to you, and I feel your bhav, I feel your energy.
Okay, yes.
But, and I could see a picture of Maharaji, and I get it, but I imagine it was different. What was the
Maharaji had a lot of Shakti. He had a lot of charisma. More charisma than I have experienced with anyone. I mean, I have been with a lot of famous, powerful people.
Yes.
In my life. Worldly people. Okay? Very famous people. Maharaji's presence was mind-boggling, earth-shattering. You see, the presence of saints of that caliber that Neem Karoli Baba was, that Swami Nityananda was, that Ramakrishna was. The caliber of that kind of energy is just, it boggles the mind because you can't even go there. It's so profound. Maharaji would just be lying around. He was hanging out. It was totally informal. Maharaji never taught anything about anything. Like if you were sitting with Maharaji, he'd just maybe go into your mind and dig out some intense memory that you had with your dad or mom when you were 9 or 10 years old, that traumatized you or something, and just bring it up to you. And it would just blow your mind. Right?
And that was the teaching.
That was the teaching.
Yeah.
Like, I know everything. He said that once. He said, I know everything. And then he stopped, and then he said, how do I know everything? Like, how do I know? You see?
He was aware that he was aware.
He was aware that he was aware.
Wow, that's heavy.
You follow?
Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, he was pure awareness. He had nothing to teach because there was no fixation on ego in his consciousness at all. Mm-hmm. He was one with everything. He was the river. Right?
Mm-hmm. He was the mantra.
He was the mantra. Because he had all the miraculous powers. He had all the magical powers.
Yeah.
He had attained. You see?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just a different, so being in the presence of a being like that, it's like, how can I describe what it was like? Because no one could identify what it was like. Yeah. Because you would have to,
So you just want to be around that. I would imagine that it must have just been so hypnotic.
It was.
You just wanted to...
It was so powerful.
Yeah.
You could sit in his presence like... You could sit over there. You could sit 10 feet from him while he was talking with 4 or 5 people and meditate and go into samadhi.
Mm.
His energy field, his aura. I'd say his aura was like, for me... I was also, I had attained a certain state of,
sure.
Purification.
Yeah, and you had your own cities.
I had a few cities.
Yeah.
I could feel his aura 50 miles away. And the closer I got to him was like, I kept getting it. It's like a nuclear reactor. I could feel, that's a good kind of analogy for it. Mm-hmm. It's like this big round, San Onofre kind of like really intense energy. Okay?
I love that. So when you're there, did you're taking all of this in, and was there any thought in your mind about how you're going to translate this into your life?
Nothing.
You just wanted to be in it. You weren't thinking about
all I wanted to do was be
5
him.
years from now.
I was going to be him. I just wanted to be like him when I grew up. And then I figured out after hanging out with him for like 6 or 7 months that, I found, he was a great hermit. He was a great ascetic. He was a great yogi.
Yeah.
I got to go in silence. I got to go in retreat. I got to go do the work now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and I was never separate from him psychically. Right?
Right.
He was completely with me. But I went off to, do my prayers. I went off to get into, the inner world.
So you had to go do that?
Yeah, I had to go do that.
Right.
Wow. And that's what I did. Then I would always come back and hang out for a couple of weeks and then check in with him and then leave again. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But after you, there's no question he was your, for lack of a better word, he was your guru.
Yes, he's my guru.
He was your guru. But you went on, you met some other you met Anandamayi.
Well, he never told me what to do, Maharaji.
Right.
And I'm like this hyper-intellectual American kid, right. You know what I'm saying?
A huge reader.
I needed a map, you know?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm going up the mountain, but I'm not sure which path to take.
Okay. So you need a little.
And then when I got to, and that's why I became a Buddhist, because Buddhism is the path. It gives the path. You do A, B, C, D, right?
Right.
You do the 5 precepts, you work, this is how you work the program.
Yes.
In other words, Buddha gave very explicit recipe
Yeah.
on how to, cook the food.
Right.
And you can wing it, but it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah, and I always think like the Buddhist path is like he didn't say how to sit under the tree and become enlightened. He didn't say to sit under the tree and become enlightened. He said how to sit under the tree and become enlightened.
Exactly.
Right. There's
It's a do-it-yourself job.
Yeah, there's a
And
difference.
so I needed that, and that really clarified everything for me.
Right.
And then I was able to meet it, because I was a tantrika. I always wanted to do tantra. Because I was probably just like, I was love sex. I was in love with sex. So I wanted to do tantra.
Right.
And I love women, I love my girlfriend.
And Neem Crowley was a householder.
Neem Crowley Baba was a householder.
So that was all right.
And that was all right.
Yeah.
See, that's why I couldn't take the Swami path, like with Swamiji.
Yeah, sure.
I couldn't have been a lifelong celibate. You know what I mean? I wasn't my nature.
But few can be.
For a horny 20-year-old kid. You know what I mean? From America.
That's what I always thought was the sort of the rub with the Prabhupada movement. It was not that path is not doesn't have its merits. It's great for some, but it's not great for all. And to prescribe that for too many, it's
not
funky.
good. It doesn't work. And
It doesn't work.
No, and then you just get a bunch of super frustrated, horny, celibate monks,
And bad things happen.
and bad things happen.
Yeah.
And energy leaks out in other ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
Very hard to contain that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And power corrupts, as we know, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. All you have to do is look at politics.
Yeah, sure, of course.
It's just so obvious.
Yeah.
They can't handle it. No one can.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So eventually, well, before I get to that, I want to talk about music for a second.
Okay.
Because...
Can you open that?
Yeah.
Put the chair in front of it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Open the door here.
Yeah.
I used to doing it before this.
Before the music?
Before we end this, before the podcast is over, I do want to talk about the music because what you do with kirtan is like no one else does with kirtan.
I do what the Grateful Dead did, and I'll tell you exactly what Jerry Garcia said. Jerry and I are very close, very close. Jerry Garcia and me. Jerry said, "We are not the best at what we do. We're the only ones who do what we do."
Yes.
And I'm the only one who does what I do.
Yes.
Okay? And the reason I can pull that energy in and connect with that space is because of my guru. Because he is my father. And I am his son. It's in, right? That energy flows through because that's my lineage. I have the lineage of that.
And you're pulling that lineage.
I'm pulling that lineage so that I can bless you and everyone in the room. Because that's my intention, is to bless you and give you healing and give you, you know what I mean?
And
to give that to you.
You do so much. You play the guitar.
Yeah. I play one string.
It's really, there's musically, there's not much going on. But then there's this cacophony of complete intricacy and simplicity at the same time, and music and mantra, and there's so much going on. I mean, I saw you play 2 nights ago, and I've seen you dozens of times. But then when you step back for a second and you're like, oh, wait a second, he's just playing the guitar and there's maybe your krital player.
Yeah, right.
I don't understand how to make that work.
Because the devas come, the divine beings come, and they sing with me, the angels, the dakinis. They help me, they work with me, the mother works with me, the goddess, the kundalini shakti. I awaken it in me, and then it starts to awaken in you. You follow me? And then the dakinis are in the room, and that energy shifts, and so the inspiration starts flowing, and the people get touched because of pure intention. Because my intention is bodhisattva. I want everyone in the room to be happy. I want everyone in the room to be free of suffering. I want everyone in the room to let go. You see what I'm saying?
Can you tell us what the dakinis are? What is
the
that?
The dakinis are the female energy forms of inspiration that are personified as these beautiful, like naked goddesses that fly in the air. But it's almost like the wisps of the breeze or the wind, or that kind of inspiration, the kind of, you can feel it when you're really inspired or when you're really writing a poem. You can feel like the poem's writing itself. Well, the mother's writing it through you. Saraswati's flowing through you. That energy, she's the goddess of the music, the swan goddess. And so that's the energy I'm invoking.
Yes.
Yeah, because my father is, devotee of Saraswati. He's a professional musician. It's in my blood.
It's in your blood.
Yeah, and a singer. Yeah. And so I started singing because Maharaji loved my voice. Maharaji loved my voice and always wanted me to sing to him.
And that's how you could serve him that way.
I could serve him by singing for him. So I cooked for him, he ate my food, and I was able to sing for him. Oh. So, and then, so that's what I did.
Yes.
And
as that morphed into the tantric path.
Right.
So the tantric path here, and here we are in Venice, California.
Of course.
The tantric path, it's, and I get the sensual aspect of it, of course. It's very important to...
Sure.
Of course. But tell us a little bit encapsulate the entire tantric system, if you could. It's not just about a 5-hour orgasm.
No, it's not about sex really at all.
Right.
It's about going through the sensations of
I
the
ask
senses.
because it's commonly misunderstood.
Oh, it's totally misunderstood. So, people try to use it as a shortcut, and then they get caught in it, and then they end up in black magic and sorcery.
It's Aleister Crowley.
Aleister Crowley, and
sure. He was it.
Yeah, and I think Rajneesh is very dubious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of energy. And, so you have to be very careful because it can easily slip into the occult, and you want to avoid the occult.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to, because you start having intercourse with demons and connecting with spirits, you don't know who you're talking to. There's a lot of spirits and ghosts everywhere. And let them be. You want to go for the highest, and you want to keep your mind focused on that goal. And that's why you have to have a guru.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, the inner guru thing and everyone's a guru. No, not really. Sorry, you guys. It doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. It's initiation. You need tantric initiation to do tantra. And if you really want to do it and you're sincere, you will get it. And if you're not, you won't. You'll make it up yourself. Everyone wants to have it both ways, but you can't have it both ways.
It comes back down to our thing about what we were talking about earlier about sadhana and how LSD can blow it open for you initially, and it can.
Right.
But then you need to maintain that, and that can only be maintained through you.
You must do regular sadhana and keep yourself focused on the highest and pray. I pray all the time,
Sure,
I do my mantra, I pray, I do...
Do japa whenever
I do japa all the time. I do 15 hours a day sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's what I do. Because I can do that. Mm-hmm. And I want to keep my mind elevated in a good state because I can die any moment, and I'm just completely freaked out by death. And I know it's coming any moment, and I'm old, and I don't know how long I've got, and I burned the candle at both ends my whole life. I've lived a very intense life, and I don't regret it. But at the same time, I'm trying to take care of myself now, and make the rest of my life really count. And do thing and try to change. I'm working on changing my bad habits and working on it. And I'm being really aware of what they are. And my self-denial, how I deny things. And you know what I'm saying?
I sure do.
And the problems I have and dealing with myself so that I can be of more service to you and to other people. I wanted to do that, but I had to clean up my own act more.
It's like the Bodhisattva vow, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, it is the Bodhisattva vow. But they all come together. You have to have the foundation of the practice of the Hinayana Buddhism, Theravadan Buddhism. In other words, you have to have vipassana and samatha. So you have to have tranquility, calming the mind, because until your mind is calm and still, you don't have insight, because you can't see what's going on in your mind. You can't see how it tricks you really until you are still and clear.
So I think at one point in your life, you've had a very intense life, like you just said. At one point in your life, there was maybe a moment that eluded you, right? Because you came back from India.
Right.
And I mean, here you are now.
Yeah.
And I know you're in it now.
Right.
But you came back from India, and it must have been confusing.
Oh, I was in like, I would say it was like, I came back in 71, and I don't think I think that I was like in culture shock in the West until 1980.
Nah.
9 years.
Yeah.
I just couldn't, I just didn't know what was going on, really. I mean, I was very Indianized, in India. I became one with India. People thought I was Indian. I spoke really good Hindi. I had perfect accent because I have a really good ear.
Yes.
Musician.
Yeah.
So I could pronounce the words perfectly. And, I knew how to get because how foreign languages are, even like American. I mean, you may know the words, but you got to get the tune.
Right.
People don't hear you. And we speak Americanese, which is a certain slang of American language, right? But it's a tune, right?
Yeah.
When you're talking to someone from New York or someone from, California, you know what I'm saying? It's a different tune, right?
Absolutely.
And I got the Indian tune down of the dialect of where I was living, you see? So I was tuned into India, man. I never wanted to leave. But I got sick. I had to leave. I had to leave. My time was up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My visa was gone. Maharaji, everyone was like, go, get out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I came, and I just was very difficult because I came back and I was like really famous. Mm-hmm. And the fame just blew my mind. I couldn't handle it. I had so many people on me, and just, I'd never had that kind of, attention on me before.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a kirtan at New York. In 1971, I did a kirtan, and I did a thing in New York City with 3,000 people.
Yeah. And nobody can prepare you for that, right?
No.
Right. So it led you, did it lead you astray for a while?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally led me astray. I became a rock star because I never really wanted to be a guru. So I was like, either I could become a guru, open an ashram, sit on a throne, bless babies, or I could be a rock star. Okay? So I chose rock star. I chose music. I went music and rock star. Mm-hmm. That's what I chose. And I went on that path for 3 years, and then I ended up having children, getting married, and
doing the American thing.
And doing the American thing, having the babies, and working, and finally just cut my hair and beard and put on a suit and join the world.
That is so weird, man. It's wild that you did that. I mean, it's just so that juxtaposition.
Well, because I'm a tantrika. I don't need a costume.
You don't need the costume.
I don't need any costume will work. You follow me?
Yes.
Yeah. And I became very good at, being a salesman because I'm very persuasive, and I have a lot of energy, and I have a lot of connection with people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Good communicator. So I became a real good salesperson. Made money. I was able to take care of my family.
And that's
what I did. So, I did that trip. And then, got out of that and all the other stuff,
Did you like seeing what happened to, do you like seeing what happened to America after you came back? I mean, that this huge counterculture movement had happened.
I couldn't believe it.
It's kind of cool, right?
It was totally cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I came back in 71, but the 60s were raging in 71.
Yeah, I mean,
they were totally raging. So I was right in the 60s culture, and I loved all the hippie kids, and
such a difference.
I felt such a different vibe now, and all the communes that were then, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Very beautiful people, real earth people, and beautiful energy. So I love that.
How about when you look around now? I mean, you play, there's a yoga center on every corner, and sort of these towns we live in, and I mean, what a phenomenon that must be.
Oh, I can't believe how popular, yoga has become, and just the whole, I think it's all good, you know what I mean? I think it's all positive and really good. Can you hear me over there? I got to pee really bad.
Okay.
But you can keep it going. Mm-hmm. You can keep it going. Yeah, so I just think it's really strange that, I think it's great, but I think the commercialization of it and the, just the way it's gotten so commercial. Mm-hmm. And, America just messes everything up. You know what I'm saying? And it's not about exercise and stretching and getting a great body and health, but it is that too.
I mean, that's an okay thing too.
That's an okay thing too. And I guess, you have to really squeeze out the spirituality in yoga. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's difficult. But if you're going to use the path of the senses and sensuality as your spiritual path, you need a teacher, and you need initiation, and you need to have a foundation and a real, intense spiritual, you need to really prepare yourself. You need to have a real ground of your being. Otherwise, the energy is just going to throw you off.
And you can't know integration.
No, you can't integrate it. It's very difficult, and it's still very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, and I think in looking at the psychedelic movement, that's so many of us kind of in the community talk about that now. Integration. Because that was such a missing piece in the 60s. Was there was no model.
No.
Everyone was doing all this LSD, but no one really had done it before. There was no model to really
people came in with models like Yogi Bhajan and Prabhupada, and then people jumped on that. But then you have these two cults.
Yes.
And then when the cult leader dies, the whole thing goes crazy.
Then it goes
like they always do.
Yeah.
So that doesn't work.
Right.
And now we have the Amma cult, which is the new cult in town. And then, when Amma leaves her body, it's going to be really tough. But
would you say, this is a fascinating topic for me, and we could look at Prabhupada, we could look at Amma. She's great.
Yeah.
Prabhupada was great as people, as teachers.
Yeah.
What the shit around them is something else. But would you say that Amma is she's a powerful force?
She's a powerful force.
Yeah.
Because there's a force. Because the Divine Mother, she is Kali. She is the mother of destruction. She destroys the ego. She's the cosmic Kali energy. She's uncontainable power. But then the energy around her, it's the entourage that you have to worry about.
But it's still worthy to focus on her.
You can focus on her. You don't need to be in her presence physically.
Okay.
She's a saint. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then you're going to pull in the Kali energy, and you also have to be ready for the let go. Are you ready to have Kali really take away, all your stuff? You've got to find detachment because, the truth is that, death is the guru. Death is everyone's guru, and we're all going to die and lose it all and give it all up. So why wait till the end? Die now. Free yourself now. Prepare to die. This is your spiritual path.
Is that what you mean when you say nobody home?
Yes, that's what I say. Nobody home.
That's what you mean by that.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
Stop. There's nothing here. Our life isn't based on attaining something in this world. It's absolutely meaningless. Our spiritual power that we will take with us when we die is all we have. But we have to live a virtuous life. Okay? And then you can do Tantra in total integrity and virtue. You follow?
Yes.
You can, move through the world, move through Los Angeles, move through New York City, and not be affected by it. Otherwise, it's going to hook you. You see?
Yes.
You're going to get hooked.
Bhagavan Das.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma. Thank you.
Om.